We're live. We're on. I'm straight out the gate, really stuffed up. I'm talking to my book club chat in the Discord that you can get access to if you are a backer of Geek Bomb's Patreon. And I said that I had to start the show. Why is that so funny to me? Anyway, a big hello to all. Book chat is back. I feel like since June was an extra long month with 5 Wednesdays in it, it feels like we haven't done one of these for ages. But in June, we covered the second of the duology for Six of Crows, called Crooked Kingdom, and now we're continuing the Leigh Bardugo journey. This will be technically, so notice we did the Shadow and Bone trilogy, then we took over doing the Six of Crows duology, and now this is the last duology. This is the first half of King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo that we're currently reading. I thought this was really cute, so I added it. As always, I've got a beautiful commentary from the Discord chat, and when they talk, their names will pop up here, so everyone knows who'll be talking at any given time. Varia's popped in to be like, hey, I haven't read the book. Well, you did read Six of Crows, though, and Crooked Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is going to be very, very spoiler heavy. So if you have not read the books, then this will be a very interesting conversation to be a part of, and I probably wouldn't recommend it. And I totally understand that this is not for everyone. Not only reading books, a lot of people don't do that, but then talking at length about books that you may have not read. Thierry says, well, when you spend 1 hour of table talk talking shard accidents because it's funny, obviously. Yeah, okay. Listen, I've never shied away from thinking that shart jokes are not hilarious. I think they're very funny and everybody poops. You know, we need to talk, just need to recognize. Yeah, hey, anyway. Let's say a big hello to everyone that is here. We've got Avery. Hello, Avery. Now, this is the first, you read it once? Read the book once? Yeah, but only about a month and a half ago, if I'm not mistaken. So it's sort of semi-fresh in the mind. Okay. That'll be exciting. We got Clever Girl. Are you there? Colleen? You going to say hi? We'll get back to, oh, there she goes. That'll do. Yeah. Colleen, have you read this book before, or was it only now? Got it. So it's in the last couple of months as well. Cool. Knox, are you there? Are you going to be jumping on comms? Apparently, we've got the volume's just a little low, so I'm going to bump that up big time. Thanks for the feedback, Cassidy. Mine's a little hot. We got ourselves a Kate, a Miss Necromancer, who says everybody poops. Some just do it in their pants by accident. That's very funny. How are you? When did you get to read this one? So you've only read half the book? I guess it's you and I doing predictions. Yep. Cool. I got it spoiled for me. Did I tell you that? I was getting a synopsis and the whole thing was there. And I was like, oh, that's how the book ends. Oh, how'd you get spoiled? Bugger. Oh, that's why. Oh, no, I didn't put on the headphones. I muted it. Sorry, everyone. That's my bad. Sorry, Cassidy. Seb's not here. Jimmy, how are you going with the book?
This book is the shit.
Oh,
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
Yes.
And then
who doesn't like, it's like if Nikolai had a reality show. This is what it would be.
Interesting.
That's just my opinion.
I love that. Alrighty. Avery said a meme on Pinterest spoiled it for me back when I was reading it for the first time. Yeah, now it's loud. Yeah, I'm figuring it out. It's all over the place. We'll get there. Eek. Alrighty, let's get stuck into what it's about. Here's the synopsis that ruined it for me, but I'm only going to do the first half of it. Or spoiler-free version. Oh, Terry's still on Crooked Kingdom. I couldn't finish that book fast enough. I loved it. Jedi Master Jace Windu says, great 8 months with the Maude Squad. Oh, thank you so much. Really welcome your subscription. Thank you so much, Jedi. May the Force be with you. So about the book. Nikolai Lantsov has always had a gift for the impossible. No one knows what he endured in his country's bloody civil war, and he intends to keep it that way. Now as enemies gather at his weakened borders, the young king must find a way to refill Ravka's coffers, forge new alliances, and stop a rising threat to the once great Grisha army. Yet with every day, a dark magic within him grows stronger, threatening to destroy all he has built. With the help of a young monk and a legendary Grisha squaller, Nikolai will journey to the places in Ravka where the deepest magic survives to vanquish the terrible legacy inside him. He will risk everything to save his country and himself. But some secrets aren't meant to stay buried, and some wounds aren't meant to heal. King of Scars. Ooh. That was a good synopsis. Nice and vague. It doesn't spoil anything. Wikipedia. Should try that. Oh. All right, so the biggest difference here is that we are not only changing characters again, changing perspectives, changing time. This one takes place about how long? About 6 months to a year or a couple of years after
A couple of years.
Okay, yeah, because that's weird because Matthias's body is still here. And I know that it's being preserved by fabricated powers, but that's a long time to haul around your dead boyfriend. Okay, so anyway, it's been a couple of years since Crooked Kingdom, and this is rebuilding Ravka. Let's do first impressions. What does everyone think of this particular book? Because we're not only changing characters, but changing genres. If Crooked Kingdom and Six of Crows is definitely a heist, what would you say this one is? Because I seem to think it's a bit of a spy thriller meets fantasy lore. Who wants to start? Yes, Colleen.
It's kind of a combination. It's got the spy stuff going on, but then you've also got Nikolai trying to work out his problems.
Yeah, Kate says political intrigue. I like that. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's just The Crows is the heist books. This is the political intrigue, and the Shadow and Bone series is the high fantasy. Because, I mean, we still have the high fantasy aspects in this with his, like, possession, and obviously the Grisha are still there. But Alina's was more setting up the world and about her being powerful. He's not powerful. So it's more about the alliances and the setting up of the country falling apart and how they have to, you know, worry about, or, like, not only the Shu and the Fjerdins, but now they have to worry about the whole thing with, like, the Kirch and Noivy Zem rising as a, rising as a marine power now. So,
oh, is that Nova Zem doing that? I thought it was Zemini that's now creating their own trade routes.
Well, that's their country. The Zemeni is Noivy Zem is their country.
Today I learnt, it's so funny. Geography is my worst subject, but even made up geography still suck. Wow. Novia Zem, Zemini. That makes absolute sense now. Wow. Thank you, Kate. I completely agree with what you're saying, though. It's the political rebuilding. It's the thing that Nikolai, you know, all the qualities that made him king, which I do find interesting. But I agree with you, Kate, that Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom are still my favorites. We are half a book in. And honestly, on my first read, because I listened through it twice, the first time's just to absorb it and the second time's to make notes and start writing my questions about it. When I was like getting into the first part of this book, Colleen, exactly the same. I missed my crew. I really loved the ensemble of the Crows, the balance between them all, fleshed out characters that even if like sometimes they didn't have likable qualities, I would have taken a bullet for them. Like really, really loved that dynamic, and I loved the heist vibe. This time around, we all know how I feel about Zoya. I think she should be smacked. Like she's just, she's a bit, yeah, you know how I feel about her. I love Nikolai, but I don't think he's got enough balance. I feel like Alina, and pardon my comparison, but because she's a little cardboard box-ish, like, you know, oh no, what do I do? What am I? And it was the other characters around her that kind of really lifted her up, or amplified, as one might say. Nikolai is so vivacious that I'm almost wondering if I need it in doses. And then and Zoya's not a balance to that. She's just as extreme, but one's light and fluffy and the other one's stern, but there's still a lot of both. And so that's why I think like having the crows was just more balanced for me. I even like Nina's part in this, I just don't like as much. I'm so not as enraptured as I was. So I want to put it to the group, and anyone can jump in first. Do you prefer the Six of Crows as well? Oh, big hello to Lisa. She's popped in. Do you prefer Six of Crows, and why? What is it about the difference between the books that is intriguing you more? Who wants to go first? Flash or Mike? Yes, Jimmy.
Oh, so yes, as I was saying in the chat, I like Six of Crows more because like there's just a lot more going on. You know, like the dichotomy of the characters, the emotions. It's very, very all over the place. And reading this book, like I said in the chat, it's like a reality show. It's like, you know, like blah blah blah. I'm Nikolai. Blah blah blah. I'm this. Blah blah. You know, it's just like it just seems unimportant, but it's trying to seem important. That's just my opinion.
Okay. What's everyone else thinking? Yes, Colleen.
For me, it just bounced around so much, going back and forth between Nikolai and Zoya, and then back to Nina. It was like 2 books in one, and sometimes it was a bit of a stretch for me.
All right, yeah, I get that. I mean, she's technically undergoing sort of like a mission, but it doesn't feel like they've got the same objective or that they're working towards the same thing. It almost feels like she's taking a bit of respite and like she's got her unfinished business that she needs to take care of, but they're not telling a coherent story at all. I agree with what you're saying. Knox, you unmuted as well. What's your thoughts with it all?
I agree with what you both were just saying. I think I was really into Nina's sort of thriller James Bond story that was beginning to form, and the whole thing with Nikolai and Zoya, I guess they're trying to put some romance in it, but I miss the romance that was there was some energy between characters in Shadow and Bone and then the Six of Crows that I miss in this book.
Yeah, it's just lacking a little something. I agree. Avery, Lisa, did you want to jump in? Avery.
Yeah, so I don't know. So for me, I mean, I really loved like the Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom storyline, and I think like as a story overall, I definitely think that one just held together more. But I feel like the stories are so different that I can appreciate them differently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So while I like really love Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, like I can still really love King of Scars and Rule of Wolves for like what it does with like the different approach that it has, and it kind of like how it combines like what happened in Six of Crows and what happens in like Shadow and Bone, and kind of like shows the after effects of all of that together.
Agree.
So
yeah, that was really good because they set up Jetta Parem, and that was like the big overarching kind of thing to deal with and the effects of it. And we saw, you know, that we've got a new enemy with the Kurga. For some reason that name is not sticking with me. Mechanical winged experiments, soldiers that can smell Grisha. Like that was a threat that we got a little bit of in the last ones, but it was introduced because of Jetta Parem. And I really liked the question of honestly, I love the world building in the sense where it's like there are particular people that have superpowers. The Kierkegaard. No. Here are, people that have legitimate superpowers. You've either got your summoners or your fabricators or the, always going to forget the third ones as well. And it had to be contained in a way where it wasn't overtaking the world, sort of like in an X-Men capacity, where it was sort of like integrated. Kierkegaard. Anyway, I'm just looking at the comments trying to pronounce that word. And what I really liked about it was, you've set it up in Shadow and Bone. All right, cool. Here are the set abilities, and then enter someone who's got a unique ability where there's only one who's got the opposite. So the sun and the shadow. I kind of really dug that. I was like, cool. Did I want to learn more about the training? Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to understand this world. I wanted to know who harnessed the abilities, what they were capable of. And then what Six of Crows duology did was go, all right, well, what would happen and what would these powers that you've spent 3 books getting to know, what would it look like if it was super enhanced and if like it was taken to the next level? And I feel like now we're looking at the aftermath. We're looking at the aftermath of Shadow and Bone and the civil war that took place. And we're looking at the aftermath of Judah Perem and what's going to happen with who's going to create it, who's going to find a replica of it, how are they going to abuse it, and we're seeing that take place as well. Kate's saying I like this way more than Shadow and Bone, to be honest. I don't know if I do. Ugh. And we were talking about the fact that Leigh Bardugo's writing gets better and better. I think she's to me like the female of Scott. Who wrote Loch Lamora? Scott. We follow each other on Twitter. Where's the book?
Lynch.
Thank you, Scott Lynch. Thank you, everyone. So this is a thing where it's like she nails the heist genre, and it's really, really good, and I really enjoy reading it. I think it's really impressive that the genre can switch from book series to series. Like, that's really impressive, and that it's still within the world. I'm a big fan. This one's just not really enrapturing me very much. But it sounds like we're kind of on the same page. So let's kick it off. In chapter 1, as always, we are seeing the point of view from someone that has absolutely nothing to do with this story, but it's just a placeholder to introduce the characters and where we're at. In this case, it is a little boy who gets bullied by his older brother, and he has to go outside and shut the doors on the barn. And this is where we see Nikolai in his monster form as the winged beast, and then Zoya saving the day. So we're instantly setting up that she's acting as both bodyguard, general, and primary carer at this stage. Noticing again that Nikolai still uses humor to diffuse situations, but is letting Zoya in. And then we're resetting the world. And the thing that's getting introduced is the fact that a bridge has collapsed and a new bridge made of bones and sinew has been put up. And it was to kind of obviously save the people to have a bridge here, but we're questioning how is this made. The fact that we know that Nina's abilities have been corrupted, her choice of words, because she survived Perem. So Perem kind of corrupted her heart-rendering abilities to now be able to speak to the dead and to summon the dead and to control bones. I thought that it had something to do with that. What did everyone else think? Who was behind the Bridge of Bones that was introduced? Because that was like a real curveball straight out the gate. Did anyone have any thoughts on this?
This is just a theory. I'm not saying it has anything to do with the book. This is just my theory. I think we were reading a book a while back, and there were caves. There were caves in there, and there were like secret caves. I don't remember the book. But point being is, the person who built this bridge could be like a past society or someone that's doing it like in secret, maybe, like some sort of group in that respect. That's just my theory.
Mexican Gothic? Was that the book with the caves?
I think it could be Mexican Gothic, yes.
Okay. Or Dune. Yeah, that's a Dune could be it as well, says Kate.
Well, either one.
There's caves. There's lots of caves. Alrighty. So we're also seeing Nina's new undercover life in chapter 3, where she's basically pretending to be a fisherman. we learn more about her evolved power, which is a corruption of her Heartrender abilities. Is she too powerful? She can ramp up people's cancer. She can raise the dead. She can shoot bone shards. She can hear messages from the dead. Before, I mean, Heartrenders were pretty powerful, being able to slow and speed up heart rates, put people into comas. But it was like more of a subduing thing. You could tell if someone's lying. What does everyone think about Nina's power? Is it a bit OP, and does it make sense being a side effect of surviving through Perem? Colleen.
One of the things about this whole book, it kind of occurred to me that Bardugo was ramping up everybody's powers in this. I don't know if she was just trying to up the stakes, but it seemed like everybody's powers are really getting challenged or, upped or something here.
I agree with you. You get new powers. You get new powers. We're going to bring a dragon to give you new powers. Yeah, okay, sure. I hear you on that. Yeah, good observation. Next, we hear about what Nikolai is up to with the secret laboratory and using this young lord whose dad did the king dirty during something, and instead of kind of making him pay for his father's actions, he's like, cool, you're going to be my smoke and mirrors and you're going to keep living your life, but we're going to take over your stronghold in a way, your estate, and we're going to turn it into our lair, our mysterious lair. The Lord is called Kirigan. Does anyone know what's interesting about the name Kirigan? Lord Kirigan.
That's the name they gave what's his face in the show.
The Darkling. Yeah.
That's the Darkling's name. And I was writing it down and I was like, Kirigan, that sounds familiar. Yeah, what do you think that's about? And Ridian, thank you so much for subbing for 11 months.
I found that kind of confusing that they chose that name for the show, because that almost makes it seem like, I think Bagra had told him to use the name of the Lord as one of his aliases. So that would make sense, except that then how is he related to this Kirigan?
Yeah.
It's not like he's his father, so I found that a little bit confusing.
Agree. It wasn't just a made-up name that was unique to the Darkling for the TV series. It's borrowed from another character in a book within the same Grishaverse. Yeah, that was a bit of a head-scratcher for me as well. I thought that was interesting. But in this, and this is such a villain's lair. Like, you go through the winery, down these corridors, and then into a laboratory. Okay. Anyway, this is where Nikolai is building weaponry, basically. He wants to not only build sort of like a navy from their ships and stuff, but he wants to, help me out, because I know that 2 people are in there doing all-nighters. David's one of them, and he's kind of like establishing, I guess, like nuclear warfare or something, or powders or whatever it is, weapons to help in this upcoming war. And then Nadi is doing something else in there. Almost a year on Twitch. I know. Yeah, Nikolai's Batman with a sense of humor. Oh my God, if Bruce Wayne could like tell a joke, that's such a good observation, except he doesn't have all this money and he has to borrow it all. What would you rather? A broody rich boy who wants to, instead of making society a better place, he wants to take the fate of individuals into his own hands, or doesn't have the money, is in insane debt, but really fun. Loves to joke. Which one would you rather?
I would go with option 2 because that's pretty much me.
That's great. You have to get a villain's lair, though. That's the next step for you, Jimmy. Ah, yeah, good point, Kate. Good point. Because Batman's sharp nose gets in the way, apparently. Thierry says, I've got a feeling that fusing the books into the same timeline in the show will be very confusing. They broke the sacred timeline. Yeah, I just think that's such an unnecessary borrow of a name, the way this is going. Batman had some great sarcasm back in the Justice League International Comics. Yay! Go that writer that gave him... You don't think you think it's on purpose. You think that... So you're saying that Leigh Bardugo is going to build into it that the Darkling absolutely 100% borrowed the name of, I'm guessing it's Kieran's dad who managed to piss off the king. Wasn't it like treachery? Wasn't it some sort of treason? I guess that checks out. Maybe she's going to do a lot more with that than we know. I mean, it just sounds like she's got a lot more to do with the Darkling than we know. We thought he was dead, but as we all know, if this is a nerd book, then nerd stands for no one ever really dies. And that's why they keep bringing characters back. Alrighty, so he's building out his army. That's all cool. Fyodor is excelling in war intelligence and technology, but Nikolai doesn't understand why. He's like, whoa, man, they're getting real good. They're speeding through this process. Yeah, Fyodor has imprisoned Grisha and weaponizing them to use their powers to further their stance in the war. Oh, we love that back world building, don't we? Because we as the readers who have done the Crooked Kingdom and Six of Crows knows this information. Okay, talk to me about this, Miss Necromancer, because we obviously know that Fyodor is based on pretty much Germany, but with really ye olde values. And we spend a lot of time in Fyodor. So now that we're in here, let's talk about the other things that we are learning. Women's sole purpose is to be a good wife and to breed. Only men can serve in the army. There's convents. What else are we learning about Fyodor? Do you want to add?
Well, from just the Six of Crows, they burn witches at the stake.
Yeah.
And have a city that's built by witches.
Yeah.
So,
but they lied about
intensely hypocritical Puritanism.
Yeah.
Where they also have they say that they are fair trials, but there is no trial. They just burn them.
Yeah.
Cities are built on the backs of essentially slaves.
Yes.
Women are indentured servant. Women are essentially breeding sex slaves.
Yeah.
Who their only worth is their modesty. And now they have a convent where they're injecting drugs into pregnant women.
Yes, I got massive takeover.
Cut this whole part of the continent off and just sink it into the ocean.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to see the perspectives when Matthias is like, the Grisha Infernos killed my family. It's like, cry me a freaking river. Everyone in this country is perpetuating like a state of insane control. And I love the fact that it's Nina who goes against sort of like all modesty, all rules and regulation, and is a witch by the definition. And she's going to be the one that tears it all down. Love that. I do still think it's really sad that we don't have Matthias that can speak as someone who has seen the ways and is recognizing that Fyodor traditions are effed up. But yeah, Fyodor's...
You can also blame Fyodor for Matthias's death because it was the zealotryism that got him killed.
Yes, and extremisms are getting rewarded. You know how usually it's any sort of religion or any culture has, or politics has extremists, and it's you want to kind of, they're the ones giving everyone else a bad name. It's no, they don't, they're going too far with our values, or, they're literally an extremist. In Fyodor, it's yay, we have extremists and we want to support them, and they are doing great work, and they absolutely represent us and our values. Holy shit. Yeah, you're born guilty when you're Grisha, says Thierry. That's it. This country sounds like an awful place to live, says Cassidy. Yeah. And guess what they all look like? They're all blonde, pale, and blue eyes. Kill. Great. Not this one, though. No. Alrighty, and speaking of, chapter 5 is where we meet the convent and the well mother. Adric's introduced back into the story. Adric is Nadia's brother. He lost his arm to one of the shadow creatures ripping it off during one of the big fights. It's interesting, again, Leigh Bardugo, as always, does a really amazing job talking about disabilities. And Adric was, a guy who was affected completely and irreversibly by war. So he's now living without an arm, and he is experiencing, especially in fucked up theater, what it's like to have a disability. And it's not gentle, and it is unavoidable. And it's like the ways that she writes about it, it's done in like a not spoon-feedy way, but it's just like, this is his new reality. And he's strong, sad. He's really not coping, and I think that's the thing where it's like, oh, you lose your arm, everything's great, like have a sunny outlook. No, dude's depressed. He's really, really sad. And I think that where it's inescapable for you, like every time he runs into someone in theater, they comment on it, or they reference it, or they make an assessment about it, or they bring it up in a particular way and talk about it as if it's like he's not a person. And it's interesting to see how it's grinding on his gears. He can make light of some moments of it, but his whole disposition has changed from being a really fun, sweet dude to someone who's just got a freaking like a cloud over his head constantly raining on him. Ridian says, I'm blonde, quite pale, and I have blue eyes. Am I a baddie? You betcha, Ridian. We're not good people. We are the white supremacists of the world. Yeah, I've tried brunette, and it just doesn't suit me. But you know what? We are quintessential day one Europeans, I guess. Avery, also, okay, this is a point. Give me a eye in the chat if you are listening to the book. Who's listening on Audible?
I.
Lisa again, it's just usually you and I. Okay, so did you notice the pronunciation of Leonie? She says Leonie. Whatever it is. I think the name's Leonie. How does everyone say this name? Is it Leonie or Leonie?
I can't remember because the first time I read it physically, and I can't remember how it was spelled.
She says
So I don't think I really get
Leonie.
it this time.
She says Leonie in it, but it's like Leonie. Like I would say Lee as in like that's the emphasis. Leonie. Leone. Oh, I guess I don't know. Fuck. You know what I'm trying to say? Like Leona. Like Leonie. But she's saying Leonie. It bothers me. It's bothering me. It's Leonie. But your comment, Avery, Leonie is the Grisha child that Jesper's mum saved. Yes, she is. Now, I think, again, we talk about balance between two people. Leonie, I'm going to call her by her proper name because I think it's Leonie. Leonie and Adric, you've got happy disposition, like always sees the positive, just super grateful to be alive. And then Adric's just Debbie Down and depressed. And then those two are kind of like spending more and more time together. And Nina comments on sort of this blossoming relationship. Adric had his whole body and then lost an arm. Leonie nearly died as a child and was saved. And I think it's really interesting to see how the outlooks come about from that. And she even said that. She was like, I was nearly killed when I was young. And every day it's like a gift that I still get to be here. And I think it's like really great for those two to spend time together, because I know that if I was in close quarters with an Adric day in and day out, that negativity compounds. So the more you say it, the more you believe it, the more it kind of infiltrates you, and the more negative you become, and the more negative everyone kind of gets with it all. And it kind of brings people down, like, ooh. But then Leonie's just just stoked. I loved the fact that they've tied that back in. I love the fact that this throwaway, not even a throwaway comment, but it was like learning about Jasper's mom and how amazing she was, a Zemini woman who was a Grisha, had to keep it a secret. And the reason why she passed was 2 girls were poisoned and she used her fabricator abilities to remove the poison, but she ended up absorbing the poison and died. And Leonie is the girl who was saved and she gets to live. The fact that she took on Jasper's last name, strange. Didn't know you could just do that. Oh, you saved me. Cool. I'm going to pretend to be in your family. That didn't make sense so much to me, but I really liked that it's all tying together like that. Yeah, Clever Girl says, Bardugo does a masterful job of interconnecting everyone and their worlds. Agree. Did anyone kind of call it with Leonie? The fact that she's a fabricator, she was saved, she nearly died. Did anyone predict that?
I didn't predict it, no. But listening to this conversation, the setup kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever played it, but Summoner Yuna, she works for the church, and she's a summoner, and she sends people to the other world, to the far plane. And as you progress through the game, she realizes that her church is heretical, and she has to find her path through her journey.
Yeah, wow.
So it's very similar to Nikolai and Nina, how they they both are on opposite ends, but together they work through their problems, even though it doesn't work out well for Nikolai, obviously.
Matthias. Yes, I do hear what you're saying.
I'm sorry, Matthias. My bad.
I totally picked up what you're putting down. I didn't really see this, but I did, there was a recollection of extracting poison. It's something that we had heard of before, and I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, this is something that's done if you're a fabricator. I did love that tie back, though. This is also where, by chapter 5, we get Nina's sort of objective. And this is where the spy sort of thriller comes into it, where she's on a mission and she's getting distracted by this factory. Not only are the dead literally calling out to her, being like, you've got to fix this. We're all dead. People are going to continue to die. This is literally a house of horrors in here. Please come and protect us. Or fight justice for us. But we understand sort of the hints. There's evidence forming, the carrots being dangled by chapter 5. We also meet Hannah. This is one of 2 sort of main new characters that we are introduced to in this book. Hannah is kind of leading this, I guess they're attempting to escape their life in a way. But all the women are dressed up in men's soldier outfits, and I guess they're kind of getting out and about. I thought that this was an attempt to escape, but then Hannah. Oh, Honey. No, Hannah. Hana, I'm guessing. That's how I pictured it. But anyway, there's a spooked horse that's dragging a girl through the water. She has an open wound, so we're starting to piece sort of bits of evidence together here. And then Nina feels the presence of this mass grave, all with girls and women. I guess there's 3 new characters. I'm sorry, because that's Hannah. And then in chapter 6, we're introduced to Isaac, who is a language expert. And then we're starting to understand politics and war in this chapter. The Zemini forging their own trade routes, leaving the Kirch out, Ravka surrounded and needing to protect their weakened borders, Zoya continuing to push a wedding and heir, and then putting on a big event to spy on their guests and learn movements. So we again have this this is the political intrigue part where it's all right, the state of the world is not great. Things are moving. I always picture the war map in Game of Thrones, where it's you're pushing all the characters around the map there, but shit's moving. I actually totally glossed over Isaac and meeting him this first time. I didn't really care or understand it. But we're meeting Hannah in chapter 5. We're meeting Isaac in chapter 6. And then I think we're meeting Yuri in chapter 9. How did everyone find being introduced to new characters? Who stuck out to you? Who do you like? what are you thinking about Hannah, Isaac, and Yuri? Oh, it's spelled like that. Hannah. It's honey, yeah. Kate, talk to me about your love for Hannah. Like in love with Hannah. All right, talk to me about that.
She is a lesbian fantasy character. She's
Okay.
big and strong and muscular and wants to buck female tradition when all they want her to be is like, fit in this certain box. She is the gay character. And I love her.
And it's working already on Nina because Nina has called her beautiful like 4 times in 3 chapters.
Nina's horniness is me.
She just buried Matthias and she's like, ooh, hi. Again, if we're looking at opposites, you've got Nina, who is vivacious, flirtatious, very, very curvy. Even Hannah says that. She's like, wow, you really don't ever want to miss a meal, do you? I was like, damn. She's like, no, I love food. I thought that was really funny though. But you're right. Hannah is trying to buck the system, doesn't like the fact that she is put into this box of what a woman should be. They said that she had like a dancer's body. So she wasn't like super big in a sense. She was actually quite lean. She had a dancer's body. But yeah, she's like 6 feet tall. But the way that Nina's got her gay days on for sure, where it's like, hi, wow, ooh, you are just beautiful. Look at you. And like even thinking things, being like, oh, she's mad at me and I don't think that this is a good time to tell her that she looks beautiful because this isn't what she wants to hear, but that's what I would do. So that's a really interesting observation. You can tell that Nina is trying to recruit Hannah for the mission, but you just need to establish trust first. And that seems to be happening in the first half of this book already. Nina's got needs. Damn straight. I don't even think Nina and Matthias ever did the deed, huh? They only just had a couple of smoochies. Avery says, I don't really have an opinion on Isaac. Reckon? That's his whole point. Isaac is supposed to be a canvas. He's supposed to be painted on to become something else. And as far as I can tell, that's what he's doing. But even though we've got like a little bit of a backstory about who he is and his journey to get into the palace guard, can't seem to muster a fuck to give about that. But good on them for having like a contingency plan. That's all Isaac is. Avery continues saying, and Yuri's an example of how young men can get radicalized so easily. And Kate says, Yuri is an incel. I would love to talk about this. Avery or Kate, are you going to jump on and talk about Yuri and this analogy, which is spot on?
Yeah, so I know that I think it's the Apparat who talks about how like Yuri was like one of his best students and all this stuff, and then he disappeared and then came back and he was like the leader of the cult of the Starless or whatever they're calling themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think it just kind of shows, I don't know, it's just so interesting how like Yuri is described as this like really intelligent kid and like full of promise and everything. And he just kind of, at some point, starts worshiping a tyrant. And everyone's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, he got into those textbooks and started learning and was taught information that you kind of have to go in the dark books to find. This hidden information is basically conspiracy theorist. that some of the stuff, though, is true, but it's very sort of indicative of sort of like, your far rights. I guess it's, it's fair to say far left, any kind of political extreme who is, but I mean, conspiracy theorist kind of falls into right a little bit more, where it's like, I don't feel like anyone believes me. I don't feel like I belong anywhere. People are mean to me. So I'm going to go onto the internet and I'm going to find people that are like me that I can relate to. And then because I finally feel a sense of, camaraderie or kinship, I'm going to believe what these people are telling me, and I'm going to possibly opt out of values that I had before and adopt these new values from these people that I really truly believe and idolize. There was an amazing video done that kind of talked about the birth of the alt-right and how it happened. And it was this incredibly great, like, narrated and animated short, which was explaining sort of like this teenage white kid who jumped online and the process and the effects of how to get them from a naive kid to an alt-right supporter, and how that goes through. And it's interesting sort of now that you both said that, because I didn't pick up on that initially. I was too busy cringing over the apparat. And then, this kind of new one came in. I was more impressed with Nikolai's language and ability to handle that. I really enjoyed how he was sort of like trying to downplay everything. And then when Yuri just kind of wouldn't stop, he's like, I've got information on you. I know where your mum lives. We're going to have a cup of tea. We're going to chat. But you don't realize that it's more than your life at stake when you play these games. And I was like, ooh, what a boss move. Like, it's full threatening. And then the journey with that. I'm nervous that Yuri's playing more and more of a role, which is what the apparat had in a way, where it was like, get rid of this guy already. He's power hungry. He's manipulative. He's dangerous. And yet the apparat managed to stick around. Nikolai's got a solid short leash and a hold on him, which the Darkling obviously didn't, and Alina couldn't. So I feel a little bit better about the apparat. I just don't think we've seen the last of him yet. But now that we've sort of made the alt-right and the Yuri analogy here, what is everyone's predictions with Yuri? Because he's one of the three that have kind of been swept up in the Saints' Purgatory. I know we're jumping quite ahead, but
my opinion on Yuri is, if somehow Nina were to convince him, I think she could sway him in a different direction. But I don't know if that interaction is going to occur because, when you're a younger person and you tend to listen to your friend group more as opposed to someone who just comes in and tries to better you. That's just my opinion.
How did Nina come into it?
No, I'm just saying if she were to influence him.
Got it. So you think Nina could be the cure because she kind of was able to unbrainwash Matthias.
Exactly. She just has that ability to show people the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, great observation. I agree with that. Yeah, okay, so Clever Girl and Avery have finished the book. I read a spoiler. Yuri's obviously a threat. And I just don't like this whole pandering because, yeah, I'm the same as you, Miss Necromancer. When Zoya's like, get rid of that motherfucker, I'm like, listen to her, Nikolai. No, we should keep him around. It's like, bad news bear. Like, yeah, we see it, but we wouldn't have a story if he just got killed straight away. Going back to Nikolai and Zoya. Zoya now has to shackle Nikolai at night because his monster is growing stronger within him and he's got less and less control over it. We have this moment where he is toying with her at a bell tower. So not only does he escape, but he's looking at Zoya as if she's food and she speaks to him. She says her name and it's not Nikolai. It sounds like the Darkling. So this is an essence of the Darkling's power trapped within him that is growing stronger. Foreshadowing. Even foreshadowing's foreshadowing because it has the word shadow in it. But what this ends up doing is Zoya, who is very strongly spoken and not scared of anything, is suddenly really quite afraid of Nikolai and the monster that he's losing control over. Miss Necromancer on the earlier comment. It's totally fine to keep this guy around who has betrayed everyone he ever met. Yeah, like, agree. Hold on, this is like the part with the apparatus back. I don't know if anyone's got the notes open, but I said apparatus back. I hate him. I hate the apparat. And Lisa, I want to hear from you. The way that the narrator does the apparat's voice, she manages to make the most hateable voice for the apparat. Like, it's so perfectly done because every time she speaks as the apparat, I want to throw my phone. How are you finding it,
Yeah,
Leigh?
I hate it. I hate it. It's the worst.
It's so bad.
Yeah, I hate it.
All through Shadow and Bone. Santa Lena, don't do that. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Anyway, Apparat was back. Yeah, Rasputin for sure. Yeah. And he's like trying to nestle and manipulate his way into these situations. But like Nikolai handles him. And this is why Nikolai is such a great political figure. And I love the conversation where Zoya is talking to him being like, how do you do it? How do you put the face on? How do you convince these very powerful men that it's their idea to do the thing that you want them to do, and they're grateful that that they are able to help you? Like, how do you do it? And I love that dichotomy between the two of them, where Zoya's just like, I don't care, that's not my thing, I'm bored by everybody. The narrator does a great job of Zoya. And then Nikolai is like, if you're looking at his stat sheet for D&D, his charisma is like 20 fucking 2. Like, it is so high. One of my talking point questions that I had, and I'm going to skip ahead to it because I just like wrote questions as I was thinking them. And this one's about Zoya, and this is probably why I can't stand her, but I'm getting better with it. Where is the question? Does beauty, so the more pretty or beautiful someone is, does that excuse their bad behavior? So are you allowed to be a gorgeous asshole? Do you, and this is a question for not only the chat, but for my Discord.
If I may, now, I would say there are a lot of people that are good looking who think that they're entitled to being an asshole, but I don't think it should excuse anyone, regardless of how good looking you are. You could look like James Dean or whomever is really good looking, and I'm just saying, it doesn't excuse you. You just respect people, that's all.
Yeah. But STS and Kate are saying you're not allowed, but yeah, you get away with more when you're hot.
There was a social experiment.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maude. There was a social experiment they did once with like a hidden camera or something where they had people like asking like hot men going up to women on the street and like, asking for directions or, doing things like that. And then like starting to kind of be creeps to them. And the women would always be more receptive to like the good looking man, even if the ugly man was the nice one. There is a handsome bias where you're more willing to trust a handsome person. And that's why when you always see things talking about people like Ted Bundy, it's like, oh, he's so like handsome and stuff. It's like, how could a handsome person do this? It's like handsome people are exactly the same, but there's like this, you want bad people to look bad when it's just not always the case, but that's just the way it is.
And there's such a bias as well. Like if you're describing a villain, he's slimy. He's got a big hooked nose. He's got big foreboding eyebrows. Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's just how we've sort of been conditioned. Knox, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
I think one thing I've found is that people who are attractive are treated differently from birth, and they end up with this sense of entitlement that they've been given in a way. I think there's some nurture and nature that goes on with that, and so it's stereotyping, I know, but it's like
there is a psychology.
They don't learn how to use. I mean, when you're not beautiful, you learn how to use your personality a little better. I
completely agree. I have a girlfriend, she's a model. And I say that she's got PPP. She's got pretty person problems. She's like, what do you mean? And I was like, you just spent the last half an hour complaining that it's 2 degrees warmer than you thought it would be. No one else gives a shit. This doesn't bother like other people's regular problems, like somewhat like bigger deals, like can I pay this bill? But yours is, it's a little warmer than you thought it would be. And it's the severity of sort of like problems that people go through. It's on a sliding scale with how good looking you are. So I've definitely observed that. I have a lot of thoughts about that. The pretty privilege. My therapist, like quite early in, was just like, you weren't raised pretty, were you? And I was like, fuck no. No. And it's exactly what you were saying, Knox. I was, let's just say I've tried to burn every single photo from 8 to 13 that exists. Like, it was uncomfortable to look at me. And then people go, oh, you're joking. You're just not true. I've shown a photo or two to some people and they've pretty much almost thrown up in their mouth. Like not. And so that's how always been sort of like my mentality growing up. It sounded like a compliment from my therapist. Yes. But because of that, I've never banked on my looks. I would never say that like being attractive is in my top 5 qualities at all. And I really had to, and I ended up like developing a sense of humor, investing in personalities, realizing that to bank on one's, like if you only bank on your looks, that's such a futile investment, I think. Yeah, puns, all those sorts of things. And you know, you weren't raised pretty, like from my therapist, I was like, damn, like that's really changed me as a person. And you know, I get frustrated with my very good looking friends when they complain about very small things that are really big deals for them. And I think that's why I can't stand Zoya. I think that's why she bothers me so much, because it's just like, ugh. Like, anyway. We're learning more and more about her past and how her parents raised her pretty, but also saw her as an investment to like literally marry off, even from the age of 9. So she's had a lot of her identity taken from her because of her looks as well. Yeah, and Miss Necromancer, you're right. You don't feel like she's using her looks. Yes and no. She is allowed to get away with zero tact, not being gentle, her sternness. I think Nikolai at one stage calls her like, what is it? The stern harpy or something. Like the threshold of what people deem acceptable from her, I believe, is a lot higher because she's stunning. And I think that's why she's irked me a lot. But that's one of my observations with this, but I thought that was interesting. And like another difference between Zoya and I, when she's putting up a front that her and Nikolai the king, like she's sort of the mistress, so she's like pretending to sleep with Nikolai, which is why she's going into his rooms all the time at night and in the morning. The guard pulls the carriage over and they have to pretend that they've just been kind of busy going for it. And the guard looks past Zoya to the King Nikolai, and is like, she looks like a lot of fun. Does she go for guards as well as kings? And her response to that, like King Nikolai shirks that. He's like, oh, like he's upset that this this guard is just like, hey, can I have a go? He's disgusted by the comment. She was two things. She took the compliment. She was quite like, oh, he thinks he has a chance with me. Oh, that's lovely. But then also annoyed that like this whole thing, like the reputation's kind of like getting out there a little bit more, even though she's not getting any. If I was doing a ruse like that to protect a guy, a king, and a guard spoke past me to see if he could have a chance or like have a go of me next, no part of that is being taken as a compliment. There is no part where I'm like, oh my God, he's objectifying me. He's not even asking if I would be interested. He's just developed this sort of like, he's leaning into the stigma that I'm just excited to be there. Yeah, Zoya is doing an Emma Stone in Easy A. She's trying to like, yeah, have this reputation. I don't know. That moment for me, I was just like, she thought part of it was a compliment. Ugh. She is only being seen as a body. Yeah. But I just think that allows such a more forgiving threshold for her. Like, imagine everyone in YA books are usually so good looking. But just like, imagine a 4 having the personality of Zoya. They wouldn't last a week. Like, people would just not accept that. Double standard. Anyway, Zoya is now scared after the encounter with the monster. Tamar and Nadia are married. I like that that's what's happened in the year or a couple of years that's passed. I'm a big fan of that. We learn that Hannah is also a heartrender. Nina calling Hannah beautiful a lot. Where are we? Chapter 8. Adric learns about Matthias. Nina's having flashbacks about the childhood. We're learning how she got her Grisha powers. This is the first time we're actually really fleshing out Nina as a character with her history and how she got bullied, but then learnt that she could use her powers to kind of control that situation and bully the bullies back, which is really cool. Chapter 9. I have one of my favorite moments in this entire book, and that is the monk I don't like the fact that the monk is overstepping with Genya. The fact that he looks at Genya and he's like, wow, I see, the Darkling's blessing. This woman was tortured and mutilated. The Darkling set his beasts on her, these winged monsters that tore into her, took chunks of skin off her, took an eye, scarred her up completely, took away Genya's beauty, which was like the thing that she was known for, and she had modified herself to be one of the most beautiful women on the planet. And she was completely mutilated. And here's this guy being like, wow, look at how he's blessed you. I don't know if anyone else, actually, I'll ask you since we've got the chat here. In this moment when we're hearing Yuri talk about his perspective of the Darkling and worshipping his movements, even though he wasn't there and these people were actually there and they've all been deeply hurt by the Darkling, how was it reading that for you? Avery, that is my favorite line. Yes.
I don't know if anyone else picked this up. Maybe it was just me reading too much into it. But it very much felt like the way some people are dismissive about rape survivors. Where it's like, oh, at least you survived, at least. Or the thing with remember in Game of Thrones, it started a big stink and Sansa had that line about how it made her stronger after Ramsay died.
Yes, and we need to stop.
It kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
A little bit, like minimizing her victimhood into, some being about the perpetrator.
I agree with what you're saying, where it's like we're not actually empathizing with what the woman has gone through. It's like now you get to be stronger. Yeah, you face that and you get to, you're stronger because of it. And I think that there was a huge petition from a lot of female writers saying, dudes, you got to stop with this women are stronger after surviving sort of like sexual trauma. That's got to stop being a trope in books because you haven't lived through that. You don't understand that. And it looks like it's rewarding the fact that it happened. And that's not what we should be doing. Colleen.
Well, this is a little different take on that. I absolutely 100% agree with everything you're saying. But I also see this as like Holocaust deniers. Anybody who it couldn't have been that bad. When they talk about someone who's survived something, or that was exaggerated kind of thing, rather than because you have these people that have experienced just really deep hurt. Every one of them has been affected so deeply by the Darkling. And then this guy comes along and is just, oh, no, he should be a saint. You guys are just blowing it all out of proportion kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's challenging an actual reality. They were all there. Like, it is irrefutable what happened. And he's coming in not having lived through it, only having read about it, forming his own opinion on it, and then coming in and being like, that's cute, but this is my perspective. But it's like, but you weren't there. And you're minimizing, you're completely negating the actual truth with a narrative that just suits you better. And it's more palatable and acceptable for you. But that's not what happened. It was so much worse than that. And you're denying the actual truth, and you're denying our pain because of your narrative and how you wish to see this. Yeah, well said. Really great conversation on that one. Yuri would have been a child when all of that happened. That's the thing. Yeah. And it's just here, like, it's in a way, it's hearsay. It's only what he's read, what was documented, but him glorifying it, like looking at Jenya. Wow, you've been blessed. You must feel so grateful that you were able to experience. Nikolai's like, dude, he tortured me. Zoya's like, I served him and he's a piece of shit. Like, he basically bedded me just because I was there. Jenya's like, he took my body from me. Like, he mutilated me. Yeah, but whoa. Yeah, this whole thing, which is why David's line of dialogue is some of the best writing in this book and makes David one of my favorite characters. Like, David, we can all, I think, agree, he's on the spectrum. He's just not understanding a lot of common social cues. But in this particular moment where he's said, like, Yuri has said something that is grossly inappropriate and unacceptable, and Jenny is trying to handle it, and she's like, I wouldn't call it a blessing. Like, you weren't there. This is what he actually did to me. Like, and then, like, David's reading, and he's like, sorry, well, young chap, what was your name? He's David. Sorry, Yuri. Oh, Yuri, is it? Oh, okay. Yuri, upset my wife like that again, and I will kill you where you stand. Like, just perfect. Putting this dude in his place completely. And then that interaction between Jenya and David as well. I don't think you've ever threatened someone's life on my behalf yet before, my love. That was really sweet. He's like, oh, I should do that more then. Oh, I haven't done that before? No. Very appreciative. It's like just gorgeous. And I think that there was another moment later. And then goes back to reading. Yes, Colleen. Yes. Like, it didn't even have, I'm just letting you know. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Great. There was another moment where, they're negotiating, Jenya and David are negotiating how many balls they can go to during this party season. Jenya's like, yay, we get to go to all these balls and socialize and talk. And he's like, oh no, we have to socialize and talk. And then, like, that negotiation, and Nikolai, David, you really are an idiot. She would have accepted 2. You're a terrible negotiator. Is that true, Jenya? No, absolutely not. And you shut up. Just that moment, so beautiful. But I think that there's even one more where you can tell that Jenya's wanting David to be more complimentary and use really sort of like using love language in a way, like, hearing that she's beautiful, hearing like these phrases. She provided David a list of all the things to call her or say to her or compliments that she would like to hear. And he was going to say one, but realized he left the list behind and couldn't remember what was on it. What was that moment? I laughed so hard reading that just perfect moment between those two. If anyone can remember what actually went down in that particular part, please refresh my memory and tell that story a lot better than I did. But that was fantastic. Does anyone remember that moment? The list of nice things to say that Jenya provided David? Anyway, loved that moment. Chapter 10 is when Nina gets attacked by the wolves, and one of the wolves happens to be Matthias's wolf. What did we think of this moment? Because this is going into like the Fjorda mythos of being able to train the wolf, but the fact that the wolf is almost attracted to where Matthias's body is being buried. What do we think of this moment, and how do we think that this will be utilized? Nox.
I thought it was really almost just too coincidental. We have the whole thing about Jesper's mother being connected to the story of Nina with curing the sick kids and stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like a big world, and there should be a lot less coincidences.
Yeah, I agree. There's some that are really beautiful and they make sense. This one so far has not made sense. This is a little bit too, coincidental, and like I get that the relationship between the Druskeller and his wolf is like a huge bond, but I don't know. Chat, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that one. Because like it's technically like the dog. Who doesn't love dog? Yeah, you did for dog. Where's my dog? See? Coincidentally not here. See what I mean? Like, we have a bond. We have a bond. Zelda! It's just... As someone who lives in a giant cold country, it is highly unrealistic. Thank you, Kate. Colleen?
I think it was just kind of a reassuring moment, though, because at one point, Matthias had been thinking about what had happened to Trassel when he disappeared.
Yeah.
And so I think Leigh Bardugo just sort of threw that in there with, oh, look, Trassel's okay, kind of thing. And yeah, it's way too convenient, but it's sort of like they're there now. See, the dog's all right.
Yeah, I get that. We don't want to hurt the dog. And out of all the loose endings, this is one that should be addressed, I guess, in a way. But yeah, a little boop boop. I'm going to just blast through the next little bit just with key points of what happens in the story, because I really want to get to my questions, because I think that they're like the interesting thing, but I want to catch everyone up on what actually did go down. Zoya, Nikolai, Tamar, and Tolia are on the road. Yuri, they find this statue of now I think it's different because I looked at the spelling, and because I'm listening to all the Audible, I have to guess, and I'm wrong for a lot of things. I thought it was duress, like under duress, and it's juris, Juris. So some of these things I got no idea. But there's a statue of Saint Elisabetta with black tears being cried down the face, and it's kind of connecting with Nikolai's black blood. And we're like, oh, some more foreshadowing. And then boom, the Kurgud, that's what they're called, comes in, takes Zoya. Little showdown happens here. It's quite quick, but Nikolai's talons emerge under the Kurgud. Yeah. Talons emerge. Yuri sees it. He's like, WTF. He gets burnt up big time. They decide that Yuri's fate is to do the ceremony, basically conduct this ceremony with Nikolai to sever the beast from within. Nikolai apologizes to Zoya for the incident at the bell tower. We have a flashback of Nikolai and what he was like as a kid. His personality type, his love for Ravka, obsession with his older brother is the only person who could keep him in line. His hunger for knowledge. And then a line that I did not see coming is that Zoya's upset that Nikolai sent Nina away. Couldn't tell that before, so that was interesting. Nina and Hannah start figuring out to trust each other. Leonie did the test on the river water, absorbed the poison. She's now unwell. We are exploring the lands near the final battle that took place in Shadow and Bone, where the Darkling died. There is recognition to Alina, the sun summoner, the saint, Sancta Alina, all around with shrines and statues and offerings. Even near Fjorda, I believe this was happening. Chapter 15 is where shit gets weird. Verbatim what I wrote in my notes. There's a swarm of changing bees, a dragon flying up, 2 saints in their beast shapes. There's a battle and Zoya's amplifier breaks. There's Juris the dragon, and Elisabetta, and this other weird saint that can't stop being like sort of animals or beasts in one. And then you're starting to learn that these are saints. Saint Juris slew the dragon and took its shape. We learned that Elisabetta apparently took on bees. I don't know, I glossed over that part. And then the last guy is Sankt Gregory, who doesn't really communicate all that much and doesn't actually go into his human form. He's usually an amalgamation of different animals. We learn more about Isaac, how he's got the job in the palace guard, but now he's practicing to become Nikolai because they are putting it through their contingency plan, and guess what? He nails it. This is like what's the Anne Hathaway Princess Diaries moment where this is impossible. This will never be able to happen. And then within half a chapter, it was perfect. Is it going to be a montage? Likely, yes. Then we learned that it's chapter 17. We learned that it's Saint Gregory who was killed by bears. And you're learning that to become a saint, you have to go into your martyrdom. They're stuck in this weird ass purgatory. They've been there for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They're able to see everything that's happening in the lands. They noticed that the Darkling had a substantial amount of power to take note of. But they also thought that when he died, since they're trapped in the essence of the fold, that it would relinquish their being imprisoned in the fold and thus being in purgatory. But it didn't. And so now some of the pieces of this puzzle are falling into place. They are in the area of this sacred land where the Darkling died. It's a powerful place. The Darkling, like to become a saint, you need to possess a lot of power and have martyrdom occur. You need to die. You've got Yuri here, who's just like having a freaking hard on for all this kind of stuff that's going down. Zoe is just empty because she doesn't have her amplifier anymore. They're realizing the old magics were, instead of having a part of an animal as your amplifier, you would actually merge with that animal to gain a substantial amount of power and be interchangeable, which is what the priest guard used to be. The priest guards used to be able to transform into animals, and that doesn't happen anymore. All Nikolai is thinking is, I have a beast inside of me. I would like to separate us. So I want to undergo the ritual to remove this beast from inside of me, and hopefully I live through it, but I can't continue living with the Darkling's essence inside of me. But here's the real kicker. His essence still exists. The fold essence still exists. The saints are trapped in this, the fold essence that still exists. And when he died, it didn't relinquish it. It's looking like the Darkling's still out there. And is trying to, or if not, will become a saint, which ties in with Yuri's story. What I'm realizing is I don't actually give a shit about the mythos. My first question, I miss the ensemble and I don't enjoy the lore, the mythology and the lore behind this as much. Grisha power is integrated with life, yes. Amplifiers and saints, no. What do people think about the mythology that we're learning, and that the saints are actually real and we're interacting with Mandragon and Bee Lady and Bear Boy?
It kind of reminded me of, I know this is going to sound a little out there, but it kind of reminded me of Teen Titans.
Oh yeah, with Beast Boy.
Because it you know, yeah, exactly, like Beast Boy. It's like he's not necessarily a popular character, but he's just there, you know, and
yeah,
it you know, it seems like kind of, for lack of a better term, lazy writing.
I just didn't.
But
I don't love where this is going. What does everyone else think about the personifications of the saints, the existence of these saints? Knox.
I got to this part of the book and went, what is going on? It's like it took a total right turn, and I was like, huh? I mean, this is high fantasy, but this is getting higher.
This is high fantasy. This is, smoked a little bit too much fantasy. Colleen, did you have something to add as well?
Yeah, I was okay when it seemed like the saints were just Grisha. And I think basically they are, but it kind of took it to the next level. And it did seem like a bit much.
Yeah, I felt a bit of a disconnect when this started happening. I was like, sure, okay. Like Perem made more sense. And like having chemically enhanced powers, I thought was really fascinating. going back to, oh yeah, we've been here the whole time. We're thousands of years old. Everyone worships saints. Sancta Alina has become a saint. Like, but we have ancient powers that you've forgotten the ways of. So let us teach you. And like they're in some sort of like Sky Tower-esque type nightmare citadel, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm a little too far removed. I really liked that these powers integrated with the rest of the world. It felt a lot more seamless. Oh my God, Jimmy, yes. This is what happens to Star Wars when they introduced midichlorians. You're like, it was fine. We didn't need science behind this. We didn't need this kind of answer. Like, you just went a little bit too far with it. Yeah, it just doesn't sit as well with me. But this is where Juris says he's going to train Zoya. The part that I liked hearing was that he was going to abolish her pride. And I was like, yeah, boy. Because her pride has been, that was dragging on. Shut up. Not great. Not my best. Don't hashtag pun that. I mean, exclamation pun that. Don't do that. Anyway, she's not coping without having her amplifier. Juris is saying basically that, oh my God, amplifier is watered down, nothing magic. Back in our day, we really fucked with shit and I became a dragon and this is how you really untap power and you don't need an amplifier to harness and channel your power. You are your power. It's a little bit reminiscent of Bagda teaching Alina how to first summon as well. It's within you. So it's kind of like tapping into that side of stuff. I like the back and forth. Like I like the fact that Juris is just not... I really do like it when sort of like Nikolai is not enraptured by her looks and Juris is not going to take any of her shit that she's throwing out there. That's a lot of fun. But Juris is also now saying that Zoya should be ruling as the queen and starts planting that seed. Because even though Nikolai is very political minded, he's not ruthless enough to be an effective leader. And Zoya does actually harness that ruthlessness. Nikolai is also accepting that, he's going to have to survive this gnarly ritual. And is happy to do so because he's sick of having the beast inside of him. We learn a little bit more about Elisabetta and Grigor, but honestly, I tuned out both times during that read. And then the last part about Nina is that she discovers the lab, and this is the room where women are being injected with Jotaparem whilst being pregnant. It is a sick experiment that's happening, and Nina's goal is it's not about being an undercover spy anymore. It's about saving these women. The disappearing women all over Fjerda and other places that conveniently... there's an excuse. They don't disappear. They fall ill, they die, or they travel. They're all Grisha and they're all being kidnapped for this really awful experiment. Nina nearly gets caught while doing her retcon, but doesn't even take any of the drug. Adric's a bit bummed about that. Hannah starts covering for Nina, so their bond is getting better. You just know Hannah's going to fuck shit up when she realizes what's really going on in here. I think that, again, as far as, we had the last Six of Crows, we're in the Ice Kingdom and Grisha are being imprisoned instead of put on trial. They're being imprisoned and enslaved and being tested on with the actual Jotaparem, and they're being used to sort of like, in their warfare. This reminded me of Battlestar Galactica, where the Cylons needed human women to procreate. And I always think, again, like, it just feels like in sci-fi and in fantasy, it also happened in Throne of Glass, where they were creating like the Shadow Army, and it was women, the witches, being forced to be impregnated and do this. Like this, there's so many times where this has happened. Yeah, Colleen.
Yeah, I just watched a video, Feminist Frequency, about, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the mystic demon pregnancy trope. how
Yeah.
often that it's just, yeah, women's bodies are just kind of taken over and used without ever acknowledging the actual woman or what she may be experiencing.
Exactly. And we again, it's the object side of it. It's like you are the vessel for procreation. So who you are irrelevant, your life irrelevant. We are going to kidnap you and use you. I mean, it's a little bit different with Game of Thrones because she cast the spell and sort of like sacrificed her body to be able to birth the Shadow Assassin. But yeah, Battlestar Galactica, Throne of Glass, and in this book, they are women that are kidnapped to be drugged or like against their will impregnated. And I'm a little over that trope as well. I think it's just I will say, I was like trying to brainstorm, well, what else could it be? We're women. We're the ones that can carry the children. What else could this look like? Alien did an amazing job of it. The parasite went into the chest or like into the body and burst out the chest. Men and women have chests. Non-binary have chests. We all have, this part of our body that holds our lungs. Hands made tail. Exactly. So it's like, why does it have to be birthed from womb if they're not even the ones that are carrying sort of like, they're not the ones using their own embryo or eggs or stuff? Is it just because we have wombs? It's like, get them to burst out of chests. Let the men suffer as well. Is that bad? Anyway, I've noticed that this happens a lot. All right, let's talk about some of my overall thoughts. And this is opening up the questions to everyone. Hearing about the turmoil of Ravka and how much aid Nikolai really needs makes me slightly resentful of... Actually, before I go into this, I'm going to read Miss Necromancer's comment. Look at how we treat pregnant women in our real life world. And people think that they're being nice while doing it, treating a woman as nothing more than a mum once she gets pregnant. She ceases to be the person she was before in others' eyes. She is no longer the person who loved swimming or hiking or was an excellent gardener. She's now a caretaker for a baby. It is. It's like PB and post-B, It's pre-B, yeah. Who are you before you had children and who are you after you've had children? And if you delaying the pre-baby position in life, you get don't you think you should be having children soon? When are you going to be a mother? Yeah, it's an identity that we force onto women. Majority of women, that's their rite of passage and that's their choice and they absolutely love that. But if someone chooses against that, it's disrupting the natural order of things. I agree with what you're saying, Kate. All right. So hearing about the turmoil of Ravka and how much aid Nikolai needs makes me slightly resentful of Alina, who deemed it perfectly acceptable to walk away from the life that she was destined to have. She could have made such a difference, but she opted out. She was like, didn't like it, not for me, peace, and faked her death so that she could live a life that she wants, which is just in an orphanage, picking berries. I feel like I remember at the end of it, I was like, that's just not sitting right with me. I'm even more angry about it now where Nikolai is just right. Like the entire country, nation. Hi, Disco Cobra. I'm not sure what came on just on the stream. Talking about a book. This is the book we're talking about. We're talking about King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. We're currently reading it. And every month, the first and second Wednesday of the month, we talk about the first half of the book and then the second half of the book. So you are catching this. If you haven't read the book, none of this is going to make sense, and I apologize, but you can feel free to join the Discord and learn about the books as we do them. We do mainly sci-fi and fantasy books. And this one is a fantasy book, which is the second duology after Shadow and Bone and then Six of Crows. Alina did lose her powers, but if she's going to lie, I think that the more successful lie is to be that she still has her powers or, hold the face of being the sun summoner. But to fake her death and just opt out of it completely when she could have been a real asset makes me a little miffed. Right, Avery. I agree with you, Maude. The whole time reading this, I kept asking where Alina was. Do you want to Chat about that.
Yeah, so like obviously she was like the main character of the original series, and so much of what is going on is the after effects of the Darkling and what he did, and she was so involved in that, and like everything going on, that you would think that she would want to be involved in this, even though she doesn't have her powers, she still has the knowledge. She was there. She should be able to help them in some way, but it's like she's like, I'm just gonna go chill with Mal on this like farm or whatever,
Yeah.
in this orphanage.
I don't
and
feel
it's
like it. I didn't sign up for this. Peace. Like after the Civil War, like yes, the Darkling's dead, but left a lot of things into disarray. Like left a country in shambles. And not my problem. Okay. Does anyone else feel like that as well? Or are you an Alina sympathist? And it's okay if you are. But I need to learn about that side. Knox.
I'm not an Alina sympathist, but I felt like, they tied up the end of the story with the Shadow and Bone trilogy maybe a little too neatly, and it would be great if Alina had a comeback.
The way that Alina wanted to rule the Second Army, that was like something that she fought for so hard. She wanted to lead the Grisha. She wanted to give Grisha power. She wanted to, she had her friends in Genya, not so much Zoya, but like she unified the people. And for her to walk away from so much of that so she could stoink with Mal, I mean, I understand that she just wants to live a simple life, but I just feel like, yeah. Okay, so Kate agrees as well. I got my sappily ever after. Everyone else can pound sand. Bye. What would Alina have done, says Glass Dagger. I love this question. How would she have been an asset in this situation? Well, first of all, like, I think she could have married Nikolai and unified the sort of like Grisha and sainthood with being a king. Who else wants to jump in there? Colleen, you did.
Yeah, if I can remember what I was just thinking a second ago. It seemed to me, though, that to be a saint, as you were saying before, you have to be martyred. And so how much would the people have accepted her? I mean, she obviously couldn't be a saint anymore. She's still alive.
Yeah.
So no, that was just something that kind of occurred to me.
But I'm wondering, like, if there was more power in her faking her death so that she was able to kind of step into that sainthood. And at the moment, we have a little bit of recognition, people having shrines dedicated to Alina, like, even Fjordans are starting to support Sankta Alina. But it's the positive effect of that wasn't necessarily enough. Oh, yes, number one. We got a new month. We got a new slate of gifted subs. And STS just gifted a sub to Avery, which is really lovely. KP Dubs just subscribed for their 4th month. Didn't read the book, just lurking. Hi, everyone. A big hello. Thank you even for lurking. None of this makes sense. So I'm really impressed that you're sticking around and helping me with my view count. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Because I know that doing this book club, I'm not really catering towards the masses, but I love it. So it's the sacrifice that I'm making. So I appreciate that. I really do. And thank you, STS, as well. If there was enough of a positive, like, sort of consequence of her faking her death that makes it a little bit more acceptable, sure. But I think we're all kind of on the same page where she's just sort of opting out of a life that she just didn't really feel like. And Kate was comparing it to celebrityism. Like, kind of once you're in that spotlight, you're sort of in it. Like, this is your new life and you have a responsibility in a way. And she just opted out of the responsibility of it all, which is just a bit shit. But also with that, we're talking and learning a little bit more about the law where if you kill your the animal that has the amplifier, you're able to, you take an essence of their power and all of that. The Darkling is an amplifier. She killed the Darkling. She should have absorbed or taken some of his power according to the law that we're being introduced to now. But instead, she lost all of her power. That doesn't make sense. Can anyone make sense of that for me?
I could try. Let's see. So you're saying that if the Darkling lost, she killed the Darkling and she lost her power, and the Darkling is an amplifier, right?
Yeah. But now we're learning that if you kill the animal that is the amplifier, you gain their power. There was a moment where Juros was saying, you remember when you took the tiger's life, you could feel the tiger's anger and fury inside of you.
Very true, very true. Well, the Darkling is not an animal, so I don't think that applies to that statement.
The Darkling is an animal. I could argue that.
Well, I guess so. It's apples and oranges, as they would say. But the thing is that much like what were they called? The saints are attached to the fold. Maybe it's how it is with the power that she was given when being near the Darkling. You know what I mean? Kind of in that regard, because like you said, I just don't see a connection with animals and the Darkling, even though it's a joke we said before. But I'm just saying, like,
it felt like when she was harnessing sort of like her big power, when she sacrificed Mal and was able to take the Otskazaskia or whatever it's called, the Muggle power, and she was able to give sort of her light to all of the non-magical people, and that kind of like, relinquished all of her power, redistributed it momentarily. Wouldn't she have to wear his bones to get his power?
Maybe, or like they did in the show where they had to like bond them into the body, But
you seem very quiet all of a sudden. This is something though where like the more we're learning about this, the more a couple of things aren't really making sense. Avery says on the flip side, we're talking about if Alina was alive, how she could have helped. Glassdagger brings up a really great point. We haven't seen enough of Ravka to know what effect Alina would have had. Honestly, we know more about Fjorda than Ravka at this stage. Avery says, but also on the flip side of that, I feel like characters in this could have talked to Alina about what's going on and she could have helped them however she thought she could. So more of like a diplomatic kind of input. Yeah. If the monster started affecting Nikolai again, then can Alina bend shadows again? Right? Alina is the yin to the Darkling's yang. They balance each other. They can't be one. That's why when the Darkling died, all the power went to other Grisha and not Alina. This is a head scratcher. All right, let's do a little round robin. Whose point of view is your favorite so far? Personally, I'm not really attached to any of them. Kate says Nina. Why, Kate?
I find that's my favorite part of the story. Like, it's my favorite. Like, I want to find out what's going on in this plot. I want to find out like what they're doing, what the whole deal is. So every time it goes back to Nikolai and Zoya, I'm a little like just zooming through it so I can get back to the next Nina chapter to find out what happens next.
And that's not good, is it? Because when we're doing Six of Crows, all of them, Wyland's went on a little bit too long, but I was still down for it. Lisa says Nina as well. Is there a different reason for you, Lise?
Well, this is a reread for me, so I'm more interested in Nina's this time around because I know where it's going.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, so I can't say anything.
Whose point of view does STS like? The Jedi are evil from a certain point of view, just a certain point of view. Nox, whose point of view do you prefer?
I was into Nina. Miss Necromancer pretty much said everything. Kate said everything. I was thinking the same way. It's like I'm really more intrigued by that story.
Yep, she's our undercover Bond agent. It's great. And not a Bond girl in the sense of the word. I noticed that in the last book we had 6 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, Part 6. I think that actually helped it make it feel more like a movie. Agree, disagree? This one less like a movie. All right, not a great question. Move on. I miss the crows was my next talking point. Yes, Knox.
That was a good question. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. It's like all these things that were going on at once, like during the big heist and stuff with the clocks chiming. You could kind of get reoriented as you change perspectives. Now we're just sort of flip-flopping.
Yes, the structure's not as enticing. And I can't visualize this as much because I don't have that added directorial lens in a way. I can't believe I read The Six of Crows like I was Hector and could see like movie snippets, but in this one I'm not able to visualize it as much, except the Isaac montage part. But Glass Tiger says Nina's point of view is the only section with a plot. Clever Girl says I feel more sympathetic towards Zoya because I know her backstory slightly. I have a feeling they're going to end up together, and I'm like, meh. Because of how much of a brat she was when Nikolai was courting or pursuing Alina. Like, she's still bitter that Alina got the Lansov Emerald. Like, ugh. I miss Nikolai's more vulnerable moments with Alina. He's still putting up a front. He still is using humor to buffer sort of like any deep conversation. He's being better with Zoya, but he was super vulnerable with Alina. He felt safe with her and was confiding her in a way that really like cemented and fleshed out his character development a whole lot more. I miss those moments. Agree, disagree, chat.
Agree.
I would agree as well.
Though?
Somebody needs to do fan fiction where Alina and Nikolai get together at the end of the Shadow and Bone, and all these problems that Revk is facing and King of Scars are no longer there.
That's salacious. Poor Mal. I can already hear Kate. No, fuck Mal. Other questions, talking points that I had. Oh, my laugh out loud moments with David and Jenya. My highlights. Like, that's the thing that I think's developed the most. I know that every time we talk about Leigh Bardugo's writing, we say it gets better and better. You warmed up to him in the last book just a little bit. That's true. In this one, I actually prefer her writing as, heist books, but we haven't had Jenya David moments, and like they are making me giddy. I love that. I really enjoy the breaking down the extent of Zoya's power as a squaller. She was reading the winds to be able to find Nikolai's monster form when he disappears, because I was like, how does she just find him? Like, if he goes, how do you know? She can literally feel the winds. And I was like, no, that's quite interesting. Didn't she, when she got attacked, she boiled someone's water inside their blood? She basically boiled them alive. That's quite interesting too. So I liked that. I wanted to chat a little bit about, and I touched on it before, but Adric and Leonie's outlook, the positive versus negative balance between the two. This is really diving into sort of like the outlook. What did you find with Adric being negative Nancy and Leonie just being like, they're in war and they're undercover and like every day is a massive risk. And she's just stoked to be alive. What sort of, I guess, demeanor do you relate to the most? And do you like the learning process, I guess, from these two? Anyone?
I would say that the demeanor I'm more close to is more the happy-go-lucky, like, hey, we're in a situation that may not be the best, but we have to be. We want to move forward properly, because when you stay in, you literally don't want to do anything. You know what I mean? So it's good to have that motivation, even though it may not be necessarily the proper motivation. That's what I think on that.
I just discovered that my headset has a volume adjustment. I turned it all the way down, and like for 10 minutes, guys, I could barely hear anyone. I could hear it just, but like I was like, it's so quiet. I unplugged my headphones. I hung up the call and jumped back in. I could not tell you what it was. And then I put it all the way up, and I jumped. It was loud, but there you go. Isn't that fun? Isn't that exciting? Cool. I'm going to agree with everything you say, Jimmy. How's that?
Oh, I thank you very much, Maude. I am the greatest. Thanks.
Yeah, just all of it. That sounds good. Good. Did anyone else want to weigh in on positive and negative outlooks?
I think I'm more like Leonie than Adric, but I like the way they balance each other out. It's kind of understandable that after everything he's been through that he's as gloomy as he is, but it's kind of nice that she is like this guiding ray of sunshine for him. He can be the commander and be really, this is the way it has to be, and she can add humanity to that.
Yeah, I like that. Even looking at it as this, like, not just being negative. There were times where he was just like unnecessarily down in the dumps, like just saying things where it's like, all right, we get it. You're bummed out. But then there are other times where that actually took a shift into being real. Like it was a realistic approach where he goes, hey, like, I'm just painting you the picture of what this really is. And sometimes, like, that's a necessary thing, especially if you're making all the decisions. You need to have that realistic outlook. I'm almost envious of being like in a situation where they're on the run, they're having to cook their own fires, they can't slip up, they have new identities, and just being like, hi, yay. Like, I don't think I would be like that if I was working and like working for the king trying to spy. Like, yeah. So that's pretty cool. Kate says, as a person who suffers from anxiety and depression, I can get stuck in negative thinking. I enjoy Leonie. Having someone around you who can lift you up but doesn't hold your dark against you or look down on you because of it is a literal lifesaver. And I think that that's a choice that you make if someone is feeling a bit down in the dumps. I remember 2019 was not a really good year for me in terms of sort of like a positive outlook. And I remember my whole thing was just like asking a lot of questions, like, why am I feeling this way? Why is this happening? And so I just turned to being inquisitive and wanting to learn, because I would notice that, my outlook started going a little bit more as a default into negative. And I was like, I'm not sure I like this, but I don't know why it's happening. And I think that, I had friends that would say to me, it's like, listen, it just feels like not only are you in an emotional ditch, but you're starting to get comfortable in there. And it's like, we can give you the ladder to get out, but you have to want to get out. And I remember being like, whoa, I don't want to be in here. And the fact that it seemed like I was getting comfortable there. But that's the other thing where it's like, if you're constantly surrounded by, I don't think this is good, I'm no good. It's like, is it then the other person's job to sort of like be able to lift them up or to accept it or to shift an outlook or to accept them or use compassion, and there's a particular way to handle it that I think it's an actual like skill set to get through, and Leonie's is pretty great. And I think that, yeah, it's a really good sort of resource in a way to be able to handle that and to understand why people are in emotional funks, and to still love them. Yeah. School Cleaver, STS saying, yep, totally get that. Being able to side and understand Adric. I'm just being like, yeah, this is really tough and I really struggle to kind of like have a sunny disposition. Yeah, I've been there too. I don't know if anyone wants to know what helped me get out of it, but in the last year and a half especially, gratitude journaling. I have a gratitude journal and I'm finding little things because it's resetting the default. And you train your brain to look for things that you are grateful for. And that actually shifts the demeanor, because it's a compound thing. So the more you're doing, the more you're having like those negative thoughts, the more it attracts negative thinking, and the more negativity you attract into your life. And I definitely experienced that when I had it. But it's just really interesting to see that shift where you have to sort of force positivity and like really think. I remember that when I started gratitude journaling, it was like I just had to think of 3 things each day that I was grateful for, just 3. And one time I wrote, I'm grateful that I even have a hand to be able to write this. I was like, God damn, Maude. But I mean, hey, yay, that's a positivity. I got a functioning body. Yay, cool. Let's be grateful for that. But usually it was just like Zelda. She was my number 1, and I struggled with 2 and 3. But it was just Zelda. And then I got this gratitude journal, which kind of like gives you themes so that you can think outside of sort of like just the only one thing each time. But I noticed when you have to find a list of things, it teaches your brain to look for them. And when your brain starts looking for things to be grateful for, it literally changes the shift in your outlook. And I'm noticing that when I have something not great, instead of being really upset about it and being bogged down by it and overthinking it and being like, why is this happening to me? I will have that bad news and be like, you know what? At least it's not this, or this is something good that's come out of it, or I'm actually grateful that this is teaching me something. And that shift, I was like, holy, did I just do? I've never been like that before. And it's really good. So I can actually leave in the Discord a resource of that gratitude journal if anyone wants in. I'm on day like 51 at the moment from this next thing because I wanted a little bit more structure and education behind it. But yeah, like it was so interesting seeing that. But like if you surround yourself by someone who's got that negative outlook all the time, you can either ramp up yours to help lift them up, but sometimes the opposite can happen where you kind of start feeding into that negativity as well. And so it kind of brings both people down. It's just fascinating. But there is a way around it. It does take a little bit of work and you have to want it. But, oh yeah, thank you, Skull Cleaver. This Geek Bomb community is on my list of positives. It's been on mine as well. Yeah, it's really sweet. It feels stupid and trite and trivial, but it really, really helps to build rungs on the ladder. Exactly. Because you're just like, there's no way. There's just no way this can happen. But yeah, that's it. Just one step at a time. So good. Bear, hi Bear, says, no similar thing helped my aunt after bereavement. It really helps searching for things to be grateful for. Yeah. That's good. Baby steps and celebrate little wins. I got out of bed today and I actually dressed myself. That's the win for me. Yeah. When I was at my worst and had to be hospitalized, having a shower was a big win. Yeah, that's it. And I think that's what we forget. It's like when you are in a really, really dark place, I'm the same. My sanctuary becomes my bed and I ain't getting out of it. And that's where I'm going to be for days. So being able to kind of like make that decision to be like, I'm not going to do this for another day. I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to feel so much better after I have a shower. And yeah, just taking that step and then like being able to do that, you're like, oh my God. In my head, that was like a mountainous obstacle, but I was able to do it. I try to do every single day where it's like, what 3 things can I do? Whether it's things that I've been putting off, whether it's chores, whether it's errands, whatever it is, like I have a list of 3 things and it feels like such an accomplishment to be able to tick them off when I do it. And I use video games as a reward. So I don't start my day doing it. I only do it once I've completed it. I've been meditating like a couple of times a week, which I've really enjoyed. Yes, True Scorn, reading can help. I've been trying to read before bed. And Kate, as always, thank you so much for sharing. Always appreciate that. You're a sweet, sweet, sweet person, and I love having you in the community. We spoke about does beauty excuse bad behavior? Really fascinating conversation. Is it weird to be introduced to whole new characters this late in the series? I think we kind of touched on that. Yuri seems to have a point and purpose. Isaac's just a little bit of a fluff, and Hannah is our lesbian dream. And then predictions. So only Kate and I can participate. Yeah, sweet. I'm sorry I said it. Sweet. you and I have a very similar sense of humor, so you make me laugh a lot, and that falls under the sweet category. Predictions. Kate, it's just you and I. If you want to unmute, let's talk through some of these. What are your predictions for the second half of the book, since we're the only people that haven't read the whole thing?
We also both got spoiled.
Yeah. So we can't predict that thing. Here's my list. I've got the wolf will help rescue the women and infants from the factory.
Oh yeah, it'll be like in Game of Thrones with ghosts.
Yes. Hold the door. Yeah. Ooh. Ugh, can't even say that. Zoya's power will increase since we've already seen her strength tripled just within the one fight, and she's eager to learn more about power. Why? Because power is protection. I understood that. But is her pride going to be cured? Because that's what he said. So that's something that I'm interested in.
I don't think so, because I think that either in the second half of this book or in Rule of Wolves, we'll see more about her backstory, and I don't think her pride will change until there's some sort of almost like a therapy kind of breakthrough with whatever caused her to create these shields around herself, right? So I don't think we're going to see that until we start going into her backstory.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to just be Juris.
I'm a little bit worried where if she gets really, really powerful and has that attitude and is, he's identified a ruthlessness and power, danger, Will Robinson.
I don't know. I'd kind of rather her in almost like a saint-like position than Alina, because at least, Zoya wouldn't fuck off with some dumb boyfriend.
She'd step up. She would marry. I mean, she's thought about marrying Nikolai, but she just doesn't have enough.
Zoya kind of reminds me of, I used to have this boss that everyone hated because he was kind of a hard ass. I loved working for him because you could ask him any question, he would know the answer, and if he didn't know the answer, he would find out, and you just had he had a confidence about him, but everyone else just wanted to fuck off and not do their job.
Right.
So they all hated him because he'd be like, why aren't you working? What are you doing? So they were all mad at him all the time. But as someone who, worked without him telling me to do my job, I liked that confidence that he had. He wasn't necessarily going to be my friend. He was an amazing boss. And I see that kind of thing in Zoya where
she holds people
I may not
accountable.
want to be besties with her. I would trust her.
But there's an accountability and doing the right thing, doing the job, doing the work. Yeah, I appreciate that. I hear that. I like hearing that. I predict that Nina and Hannah get together. Smoochy, smoochy.
She has a Fjorden fetish, I guess.
Yeah. What is with that?
I think that that's going to happen. And I think it's because it's been 2 years. I mean, she was dragging his body around, but it's been a long time since he died.
Yeah. But he was talking with her the entire time, even though it wasn't him at all. But she convinced herself that they were communicating through that. That's weird.
And I don't know what else. We're going to see more about all these potential wives coming to the palace. So we'll probably see some stuff with Isaac pretending to be Nikolai and him falling in love with one of the girls, I guess. That's going to be a romance thing because that's totally a YA trope thing, you know what I mean?
Yes. We just got raided. Adam Vision is coming in with the Ding Dong Squad. You've come in on book club night. We are wrapping up our conversation about this book, King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo, which is in the Grishaverse. So if you've watched Shadow and Bone, you know a little bit about what we're talking about. Thank you, Snow White Tiger, for the follow. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Adam. How are you going? Look at all these ding-dongs happening in the chat right there. Thank you, Initiate This. Wait, Instantiate This. Ooh, what a name. So we've got the chat happening down here. We've got the book here. We've got one last prediction to make about the book, so don't disappear if you haven't read it, because I've got some overall general questions that we can touch back on before. Like Adam, Beedham, as he's known affectionately in this chat, because Adam was first and therefore gets Adam instead of Beedham. But Adam Vision, if you're there and all the ding dongs, one of my questions that I've been asking everyone is, do you think that good-looking, pretty people can get away with being awful humans? Are they, what was the actual question? Does beauty excuse bad behavior? Here we go. Of course, says Jack. Rowdy Girl says yes, sadly. Why is that? You don't want to know my answer, says Adam. It shouldn't, but it does. We have an attractiveness bias within us all where we are conditioned to think we're all conditioned of what beauty really is. Some people go, no, I actually really love a wonky nose. That's my jam. Whereas everyone else is like, no, you have to get that fixed because it doesn't look perfect. Jack says it shouldn't excuse it, but yeah. Brolbaticus Maximus says it often seems to, unfortunately. It shouldn't, though. Actually, there's something that I was talking a little bit before about sort of pretty people problems, how if there's a scale of what's really upsetting news, to an average person it's my father died, but to a pretty person it's oh, the temperature's a little bit hotter than I thought it would be. I wore a sweater today and I didn't need to. Yeah, Kate likes a strong nose. Hell yeah, imperfection is perfection. I'm loving this. That's right, we need to celebrate it all. It makes evil more tolerable. Yeah, I mean, there is this thing going around where it's the hot villain and everyone's you shouldn't excuse him. He's an evil person. It's yeah, but he pretty though. That's signing up for it. But it's okay when we're talking about Shadow and Bone because it's a fictional character. When we're talking about Ted Bundy, it's he absolutely abused his charisma to murder women. Rowdy Girl says, that's why I don't trust super pretty people until they show me that they're nice. Yes, because I think for some really, really good looking people, there's a choice. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because in this book, there is a character called Zoya Selensky, and she is basically the most beautiful woman anyone's ever seen, but she's so ruthless and stern and has no tact, and she tells very harsh truths. How else would you, chat, Discord, how would you describe Zoya Selensky?
Cold, to the point, maybe ruthless.
Cruel.
And pretty. Yes, cruel, definitely.
She's cruel. And I just, yes, not.
She lacks compassion.
Lacks compassion. Yeah. And anyway, I'm just people have a really, really high tolerance of her despicable behavior because she's so beautiful. And I'm that's some bullshit. I don't think that should work. If you're a bitch and I don't care how pretty you are, stop that. Stop that. It's just not cool. And we're also talking about where if you're not raised pretty, then you invest in personality. Zoya's like Regina George, says Thierry. There you go. And I, as a woman with a profile online, I've always been like this. My first job in television when I was 19 or 20 was on Nickelodeon. And I recognized really quickly my influence on impressionable girls. And I also recognized that there were so few women that were admirable or for what my version of what a good role model is. And I mean, there's a lot of conversation about body positivity and owning your, owning your sexualization. But for me, I really wanted to celebrate personality. I think that, I'm always usually wearing high necks. I don't really showcase my body. Sometimes I'm learning to lean into that a little bit more. If I feel confident in my body, or if I'm taking those measures, it's because I'm doing it for me. I'm celebrating the hard work that I'm doing because I'm lifting now and I got a line. But I don't like being sexualized by people that I don't know. And I understand that I'm in a business where, nerd culture, I'm a woman, and just by being in front of a camera, it's sexualize me, please. It's the least favorite part of my job. But from sort of 20 years old, I really wanted to celebrate, not necessarily educate, because I don't think that's my place to educate who people should be. That's a choice, and I don't want to take anyone's choice. But I wanted to celebrate being funny, being, investing in communities, or celebrating being different, celebrating being unique. There are so many photos from when I was like 20 to 25 where I would photobomb before photobombing was even a thing. I would stand behind the models who were getting their photos taken at events and I'd be going, like, honestly, some of the faces that I could pull are spectacular. I celebrate being a geek. I celebrate being unique and not falling into the norm or only saying that my worth is in my looks. And I think the introduction of Instagram has really reinforced if you want likes and if you want validation, you have to show as much as your body. And it's not necessarily even about the captions. It's about, you know, showing us your body. And I just wanted to be like, hey, you know, there's different ways that you can get validation, or maybe even validation's shouldn't be the priority, but it's like, just celebrate your differences, celebrate being unique, celebrate kindness, celebrate liking things that isn't stereotypically cool. I think all that shit's awesome. Jack, yeah, tickets to the gun show, mate, she lifts. I was doing 15-pound snatches this morning. Oh, that wiggled a little bit. But I'm getting strong and I love it. Kate says, Maude, you are so beautiful. I'm terrible at taking compliments. Maude, you're so beautiful because of your aura. I never say I have a type because then someone comes along with that certain something that isn't part of that type. Oh, I have a certain something. Not to everyone. Ooh, why do I have to? Thank you. That's really sweet. I agree with the aura comment where it's like there are some people whose the way that they carry themselves, their confidence, their, you know, wit, there's something about them which really, really resonates with me. I also have a Prince Eric from The Little Mermaid fetish, which I discovered way too late, but I think I watched Little Mermaid so many times that it got ingrained into my head that that's what I want. That's what I need in my life. Kate also says, if you want to sell sex, you totally can though. And that's the other thing. And that is a form of empowerment. And I think that, like, if you're going to get sexualized no matter what, monetizing that is brilliant. Like, it makes your body a business, but at the end of the day, that is your choice. And it's a very empowering move. And it means that there is, it's for me, that feels transactional in a sense where it's like, you know, you want this from me, I want something from you. We both get to benefit from it. And so, you know, I agree with that completely. Gory, hi Gory, says, as someone who worked in corporate social media marketing and knows all about the algorithms and optimizations and the truth behind each platform, I agree with you. Don't fall victim to this. Be yourself and don't try to find those likes and views and follows. They will come organically from people who are like-minded in time when you put yourself out there. I think authenticity is one of the most brilliant gifts that we have and can offer and stay true to. Because like authenticity is something that blind person can see. Like it's a very obvious thing. And people that are changing who they are or feeling like they have to change or are forced into something that doesn't really feel authentic or genuine, people notice and recognize that instantly. And I think that that's why I wanted to celebrate the individualism. You know, it's not, you know, this is who I am, but I feel like society is putting me in this box. So I have to literally hurt myself to try and squeeze into this box. It's like, no, there is something for everyone. Own the qualities that make you truly you. I think that's a really cool thing. KP Dub says, you work hard to be creative, funny, informative, and create great community. I can only imagine how infuriating it must be if someone's like, hi, I'm a fan, you're pretty. Did they not notice all those other amazing things about you? I think because, and I know that this sounds like a copper shit, and I do apologize for that because I've spoken to friends about this and they've said, you're full of shit. But I absolutely tell you that when someone that doesn't know me calls me pretty, I don't see me as pretty. And I've said this to friends, I've said this to my therapist. I do not think that I'm the kind of person when I walk into a room that people go like that. I don't, and like in Australia, because there were so few jobs, I was always up auditioning against all the Miss Australias of Australia. So they were all 10s. They were so beautiful. And I remember being like, I'm not that. I'm never going to be that. That's just not me. So I'm going to come in there super prepared and really hone my skills, and I'm going to be funny, and I'm going to be able to read off the prompter, or I'm going to be able to learn a script and not need help with that. And I'm going to bring my A game with hosting because I don't look like a supermodel. So yeah, I guess back to your comment, KP Dubs, if someone's like, wow, I mean, I've only seen a version of you online and I think you're pretty. Yeah, I'm like, all right, it just Teflon. It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't take it as a compliment because it's not something that I see in me. But if someone says, I recognize the work you put into this, I go, oh, thank God. That means so much. That's why I'm doing this. If someone says, I really think you've got a cool sense of humor. I really liked that joke. You know, that's what I've been working on. That's what I recognize in myself. So that's the compliment that I can take and that resonates with me. It's really interesting. But yeah, anything based on my looks, even when this is personal and I don't usually share this information. If I'm on a date or if I'm talking to someone and it's new and they only reinforce my physical state. So if they're like, you're really pretty, or you're so beautiful, or I'm so like, I shut down. I'm like, you don't know me at all. And it's like, of course you think I'm attractive because that's the first thing upon talking with someone that you think there's a chance, there's a prospect, there needs to be an attraction. It's the first thing out the gate because you see a person before you talk to them. But if that's the only thing you're going to focus on, when I am like doing zingers and giving you my best stuff and you're still only focusing on that, then it's like, those compliments, I don't like that. So yeah, and I have to tell them, like if I'm on a date and they're like, you're really pretty, I'm like, ooh, I will physically move out of the way of their compliment. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to let that one, I'm going to let that one go. Because for me, a compliment only truly has weight behind it when that person recognizes like a value of that person. Yeah, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Like the things that I admire about me, unless they see that, then it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Jimmy, you kind of get it.
Sense.
Yeah, Knox, you get that? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was actually going to say before we close tonight was I really appreciate your building this community and all the work you put into it, and you do it so well. And we appreciate it. I think all of us, I can speak for the others as well, that we're here because of your personality.
That means a lot. Thank you so much, Knox. I really appreciate that. Ah, thank you. Oh, by the way, Plastic and Plush, thank you so much for the follow as well. I'm starting to get a bit ranty, which is how I can get from time to time. So thank you for all my chat and my Discord for sticking through with me when I get ranty. I did want to just stick around and extend it a little bit, only because Adam Vision decided to raid 3 minutes before we were closing. But that's sweet. I'm happy to extend the conversation. Kate said, and Adam gifted a sub saying, appreciate you. You're very sweet. You're a good boy. Kate says, I compliment people on clothes and accessories frequently, but it's rare for me to compliment someone on their physical appearance. I totally agree with that. When someone gets dressed, it's like saying, this is how I want the world to see me. These are creative choices that I'm making or investing in my appearance. But I think, you know, whether someone is pretty or not, like it's kind of it can be out of their hands. I don't know. It's such a hard one. It's very complicated. It's very complicated, but it's a good conversation. Bear says,
I'll just add to that, Maude. Yeah. When you share that you liked your makeup that day and it looks great, it's like it's from you, but it's like it's sharing with us.
Thank you. I did. I was like, damn, this looks cool. I like this. I like what I did with my face. Here, everyone go. And it wasn't to be like, tell me how pretty I look. It's me going, I'm going to tell you how I look today. Because I get into friction with some, not all, men online who tell me their opinions on my hair and makeup. And it irks me. If someone's like, I get that you like wearing a strong red lipstick, but I just prefer it when I'm like, stop right there. I don't fucking care what you prefer. what I do with my face because it's my face. Thierry says, I do miss the Maude attack the makeup artist. I actually have a video that I haven't posted yet when I did this recent photo shoot. Totally did it. She handled it like a champ though. And I was like, oh. I love it when our conversations go ranty and somewhat unrelated. Yay, Avery. Colleen says, I have a granddaughter who's self-conscious about her skin color. I assure her she's beautiful. I hope I'm not giving her wrong values. I think that easing anyone's self-consciousness, especially an impressionable young girl, statistically, there's some warped ones, and I think it's all happened in the last decade with the introduction of social media. Depression has risen 50% across the board. Eating disorders have also gone up something like 300%, and they're noticing it as early as 7 and 8 year old with women, girls. And so social media is really challenging how we see ourselves, our happiness. And I think that by being inundated with validation, and they've literally designed Instagram to be like going to the pokies and the slots, where it's like the button and the icon pops up. There's even a notification sound, bloop. There's all these things that condition us to want to know, refresh and to get likes and to, SCS is evil. Social media is evil. It 100% is. If I didn't do this for a living and if my social media wasn't a business, I would be off. The goal is to get so famous that you don't need social media. Even then though, life is pretty fucked because people become obsessed with you in a really unhealthy way. But yeah, it just sucks that I really like what I do for a living. But when I get people saying to me with like complaining about social media and like, I've noticed how it's affected me negatively. But when people say, oh, but you're a host, you signed up for this. I'm like, bitch, I started hosting 16 years ago. There was no social media. Facebook hadn't even come to Australia in 2005 or 6 when I started. And if I ever wanted to read what people were saying about me, I had to go on forums. People had to post it on my MySpace wall. Like, we just didn't have the accessibility that we have now. If someone doesn't like me, all I have to do is open social media and read a comment. And people tell me. And it has a really detrimental negative effect on me. Do you remember those forums, Adam? Were you playing Fall Guys before, Adam? Were you still playing that game? Did I see? Fall Guys. Return to the forums. SEO says forum, shudder. Gory says, when I worked in corporate social media marketing, my job was to manipulate people to buy a product. Today, my job is to foster a safe space online for an awesome community and work with badass women on content creation that I'm passionate about. Thank God. And Gory, you were saying that white collar work was just, you were really good at it, but it was not fulfilling in any way. And I think for me that there's so many ways that I could be making more money, monetizing things, charging more, selling out. Like there's so many things that I could be doing to make more money. But I mean, even when people are talking to me about Geek Bomb and about Punderwear, like the reason why Punderwear collapsed was because it was being made in a factory, in a manufacturer in Long Beach in California. And the company I was going through wanted to move it to China so that I could make more revenue. And I said no, that it wasn't about making money. It was about making a quality product that people would enjoy wearing, that would give them personality, that they could be confident wearing. And they moved production to China anyway. And so I shut shop. I was like, fuck that. Absolutely not okay. You're lucky I don't sue you because this is bullshit. And they're like, but all the money. And I was like, no. So when I talk business with some people and my priority isn't money and earning money and making money and exploiting people for money or greed, they're like, I don't get it. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, because there's so much more rewarding compensation than money. Hearing that people are getting into D&D because I created a series on SourceFed called SourceFed D&D, which is now Fungeons and Flagons. Hearing that people have found communities and are playing games that mean so much to them, that's worth it for me. Oh, Colleen, I want everyone in this community to know how much I appreciate being here and feeling accepted. I have to leave now, but I really love being here. Colleen, I've taken 2 and a bit hours of your evening. Thank you so much for being here. I love having you in this community. You always provide such incredible insights and challenge me to think outside my little viewscape, and that's so rewarding. So thank you. And you've been a part of this book club for a lot longer than I think people realize as well. So thank you. If anyone else needs to go, let me know. More money would be rad, but literally because of all the rad things we could do for this community and the epic content we could create. If only people knew about half the ideas that were floating around. Yeah, we're trying to take over the world without taking everyone's money. I mostly use Facebook for D&D, finding games, and the Montreal Adventurers League community. Oh, yeah. I respect what you did with your clothing brand, says STS. That solidified my respect and support of you. Oh, thank you. I just didn't like how I wasn't listened to. My values were not respected. That sucked. Rowdy Girl says, no, when people say BBs, it really shows their age. BBs? BBs over here actually stands for bomber backers, people that Patreon supporters. They are called BBs. So I'm not sure if there's a communication hiccup there.
I think she may be referring to people calling people baby, BB.
BB. Oh, yeah. I don't use that. BB. Thank you, though, Nox. I'm just reading through all the chat. From my Discord, any last thoughts after this epic rant? Does anyone want to? Oh, bulletin board system.
So, before I make a statement, is there any particular thing that you want me to comment on, or no? That we spoke about.
Whatever's floating your boat.
Okay. Well, remember you were talking before about the dismissal of the trauma.
Yes.
In the book. Yes. Well, as you know, not to go into a lengthy story, but I've been in traumatic situations and I've overcome them. You know, the way that you know, because it feels when you're in the thick of it, it feels literally like you're in a closet and you can't open the door. That's what it feels like, you know. So, like the way that I would do it was, I know this is gonna sound weird because the show wasn't that popular, but I ended up watching this show called Heroes of Cosplay.
Oh yeah, my friend hosted that.
And yes, exactly. And I just got really involved in the Heroes of Cosplay, and it just made me like so joyful because it was you know, like people coming together, community, and they were being creative and they were being supportive. Now I know this is a reality show, but it just felt like very uplifting. Meanwhile, online people didn't like it at all and they said it was garbage. But that's what got me out of my depression, you know. Wow. That's what opened the door for me, you know. And then when I met some of the women that were on the shows, they were also very supportive, and I told them the story. Hopefully I wasn't overwhelming them with the information, but you know, I was just showing my gratitude to them, you know, and letting them know.
I think that's probably the most powerful feedback someone can get, which is like your content or the thing that you put out into the world has helped me so much through a really tough time. I think that's incredible. And it's like, you just don't know what it's going to be as well. Like you were saying, you're like, there's this show. Not many people even watched it, but there was something about it that really lifted me up. And I think that's really cool.
And just a side note, real quickly. One of the people that was on the show, I don't know if you know the woman, but her name is Jessica Marizin. And she invited me to Microsoft, the Microsoft offices. And she let me tour all of Microsoft. And she even gave me a mug, bought me a pop, bought me dinner. You know, very nice treatment. And I was just like, I appreciate
Yeah.
shouldn't have to do that. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. When someone makes a little bit of an effort where they don't have to do it, it means so much more.
Yes. And it means the world. It certainly does.
And I think I mentioned that before, where it's like the adverse reaction. Gory cut a clip of it, which I'm probably going to post, which is like, you could say something so dismissively, not even have any intention behind it. But if it's like just like a random comment, but if it's taken negatively, you can absolutely change that person's life. Like, it can stick completely. But the other side of that is, like, if you do something and show gratitude, or if you say something positive, or if you make an effort to sort of do something nice, the consequence of that can actually affect their life profoundly in a positive way. So I think it's like being super cautious of actions, because I've said something and I haven't even, dismissed it completely. I didn't think it was anything. And like 2 years later, my friend goes, wow, when you said that, like, it really hurt. And I was like, I don't even remember saying it. I don't even know why something like that would have been said. But then the opposite of that, which is like, wow, you made an effort, or you did something, and it's just so special, and it's really, really helped me in a profound way. Yeah. That's why I'm like so scared to be a parent, because you can just say something like, there's things that my mum dismissively said, which I'm just like latched onto. Language is really powerful. Actions are powerful. Kate, Lisa, Knox, Avery, is there anything that you wanted to add to? Final thoughts, something that's helped you through this, something about the book, something that we've just been talking about? Who's up? Final thoughts with Knox.
I can't wait for next week when we have read the entire book.
Okay. Does it get better? Or should I drink while reading?
You should probably drink.
Awesome. Okay. Good.
I mean, the high fantasy gets a little higher probably, and then there's some, let me just say I loved this book until the last 2 pages, and then I was like, what?
Alrighty. So weed is legal in California. Good to know. Thank you for your final thoughts, Knox. Avery, have you got something?
Yeah, I guess just that I really enjoy this community and these chats, and I know that not everybody's enjoying this book as much, but I just really love the Grishaverse, and I'm really glad I have a place to talk about it with people, because I think it is wonderful.
Same. And I saw your comments before as well, where it's like, just because someone's having a really negative experience with social media, it doesn't mean that that's everyone's take on it, and that you've had really, really positive experiences with social media as well, which I think is great, because there is a connectivity. Like, it can connect you with like-minded people that might not necessarily be in your local community, but you do have a space, exactly like Geek Bomb's book club, where you can talk about the things that you absolutely love and you get to share in it. And I think I agree with you completely with that. Yay. Lisa, did you have anything? Lisa?
Well, now I feel like I can't wait till the end of the book, because I can't remember what happened to make Knox not like the ending. But I'm excited for you guys to finish it, because I really did enjoy this book and the sequel. So,
Lisa, what speed do you listen to your Audible on?
I listen too fast. I listen to it at 1.75. Everybody always gives me crap about it.
So, Lisa, this will make you feel better. When I first listened to it, I'm on 1.4. My second listen through is now up to 1.8. And I don't struggle at all. Like, it actually feels quite normal for my ADHD brain. So there you go.
Yeah, if I do it any slower, I start not paying attention.
There you go, Bear. That answers the question. Why listen so fast? I retain and process information lightning speed. I read really fast. And so like I can listen really fast. At times 1 at normal speed, it feels like I'm stuck in quicksand. It feels like someone's talking to me like I'm stupid. I go. My natural speed is really quite quick, and so it's like skim reading. I'm looking at not all the words, but I can put it together. It's the same thing when someone speaks, I guess. just found it easy to go too fast in audio and miss bits. The most bits that I will miss is when I'm just not paying attention. So I actually need to focus. And when it's really fast, it's actually forcing me to focus more because it is going so fast. Then instead of it just like wafting along and telling me like my 1.4, I think I zoned out of 3 chapters. Like when I listened to it the second time, I'm like, I don't remember any of this. And that was listening to it on 1.8. So there you go. Kate, final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I got spoiled, but I'm curious and intrigued and excited to see how that spoiling, like how it comes to be. So all is not lost.
I was going to say DM me what the spoiler is, but if it's not what I read, then...
Yeah, it would just end up spoiling you and you'd be like, wait, why did you tell me that?
And I'd tell you mine. And then we'd just be miserable. So homework, if you choose to accept, if you are reading King of Scars, we're doing chapter 21 until the end, which is 39. And we'll be meeting back here Wednesday night, 5 p.m. PT, to have a chat about it. This one went for a whopping 2.5 hours. So thank you so much to my Discordians. Is Discordian a word? Because it should be. For chatting about the book. Really appreciate you for taking time out, because this is like, it's 2.5 hours. So I really do appreciate that. And it's been a lot of fun. And there have been tangents. But if you do want to get involved and you want to be a part of the book club, it is a perk. If you have signed up to Patreon, $5 and higher gets you access not only to the Discord, to the playing, watching, reading sections of Discord, to the book conversations that we have, but we do 2 book clubs like this a month, the first 2 Wednesdays of the month. And then we take a week off so that we can read an entire book for Nerdist Book Club, which is the final Wednesday of every month. But then you're back on the Discord for the after show where we chat about the book with Rachel and Hector, the co-hosts for that one as well. There's a bunch of different perks on there. Gory's just put a link up if you want to check it out and support a small business. There's 3 of us running the company now. You know what I mean. But we're doing our dang best with what we have, and I appreciate everyone's support with that as well. All right, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate y'all. Did we guide the raid? Mickey, who are we guiding? Who are we jumping into? I'll say goodbye to Discord. You've been lovely. Chat soon. I'll hang up on that call because you don't want to hear me guiding a raid.
Bye.
Bye,
Ta-ta.
everyone. See you later. Whose raid are we guiding? Who are we raiding? Did we have one? Oh wait, we're about to hear me. Oh my god, I just looked up the stream and I'm like, did we? Mikey, are you still in here? You just dropped 300 channel points to guide the raid. All right, Gory, is there someone that you would like us to do? Oh, you've already answered my question. Of course you have. Of course you have. And thank you, Adam, again, if you're still here for the raid. You are just wonderful. You're wonderful. Oh, Brizzy Voices could be really cool. What are we thinking? We're all going to go support. Do we want to do Just Chatting with Rycops? Do we want to do a little bit of God of War with Brizzy Voices? They're good options. I like both of these. Yes, I'll wait. Brizzy. Love it. Tell her Maude sent ya. We'll go say hi and drop some bombs in the chat. Alrighty. Raiding channel. Thanks, everyone. This was a good night. It was a lot of fun. Enjoy God of War. And we're going over in 7 seconds. And STS, thanks again for the resub. And everyone else who resubbed. Esquire. Bye.